Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com. Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific. Ray Flowers breaks it all down for you from a fantasy sports perspective. Hey everyone, Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. How you doing today? Hopefully well. Hopefully you're having a better start to your day than I did. Yeah, a little frustration this morning. I'll try not to let it seep out onto the show, but some of y'all, I do a lot for all you, and I'd appreciate it if you appreciated the work. I saw Doug in the Discord room saying, or the chat room, excuse me, saying appreciations for Ray Day. Appreciate you, Doug. Thank you. That helped an awful lot to see that right before the show started. Again, I'm Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. You can find my work over at FantasyGuru.com. This is Fantasy Sports Daily, the show we do Monday through Friday at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's 9 a.m. Pacific Time. Monday through Friday, it's free. Tell a friend. You can watch us right here. When I say right here, I guess it depends what right here is for you. First of all, we can watch the show live on YouTube at the Fantasy Guru site, at Fantasy Guru site. Can't ask any questions there, but you can ask questions on Facebook and YouTube. So facebook.com/fantasyguruhq or on YouTube at YouTube/@Elite Plus, YouTube.com/@Elite Plus Network. In both of those spots, you can watch the show live. You can see me talking. You can see what we put on the screen, the graphics and all that. You can also ask questions. You can leave comments that we discuss at the end of the show every day. If you don't get a chance to watch live, that's totally fine. Go to fantasyguru.com, click the Elite Plus tab at the top of the page. If you ever miss anything, all the shows come up there. All the podcasts that we have at the network, the Elite Plus Network, are available there. You can find Fantasy Sports Daily there. You can always type in Fantasy Sports Daily into Pandora, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, all those spots, and get a gander at what we have to offer here. Hopefully you like what you see here, and hopefully that leads to you subscribing over at FantasyGuru.com for a product. We can still help you out if you want to play DFS baseball in the second half. You want to do some wagering baseball in the second half. We still have those packages available, so you can hit us up over at FantasyGuru.com. Be happy to help all of you out if you need some help in baseball. We've also got the football package obviously available right now. Click the subscribe tab in the top right corner of the webpage. Sign up for seasonal football, DFS football, wagering football. Bundle all three together. Go nuts. If you have any questions, you can always send them to support@fantasyguru.com. Support@fantasyguru.com. What are we talking about today? There we go. You see it on the screen. Oh, why is my face so small? Let's get a normal size. There we go. Logan, Webb, Hayden, Birdsong, Clayton, Kershaw, Yariel, Rodriguez, Yainer, Diaz, Joey, Bart. Yeah, back from the dead. Seiya, Suzuki, Jakes McCarthy, Jackson Churio, and Matt Olson. Then we've got some injury situations to break down. Walker Buehler, Tyler Mahle, excuse me. Luis Rengifo, Thairo, Estrada, Max Muncy, and Mookie Betts. Some good news coming with Mookie Betts. We're also going to visit in about a half an hour because it's a Wednesday, or excuse me, it's a Thursday. I don't even know what day it is. With Tyler Beaker of FantasyGuru.com. We'll talk some quarterbacks, some wide receivers, some tight ends with him. A lot of discussion about the wide receiver position day. Pittman, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Odunze, Chark, Jameson, Williams. You can see the names there on the screen. So we'll talk to him in about a half hour. Remember, Armando Marsal's on Wednesdays, Tyler Beaker's on Thursdays, and Russell Clay is on Fridays. Okay, let's get into it. Oh, by the way, and stick around to the end of the show today. For those of you that are watching this, whether you're watching live or on tape delay, which we determined yesterday was the right way to say it, even though it's not. I went to the Rage Room over the weekend. A lot of people got excited about a tweet that I posted out. So I got a couple of photos to share. So I'll have that at the end of the show. Also, one other note, when I'm done here and I'll start writing the cash game breakdown. The cash game breakdown, remember, we need 5 games for the cash game breakdown to actually be viable. As of right now, there are 5 games. Of course, there are 3 games that have weather concerns. So you'll have to choose for yourself if any of these games get knocked out. Again, 5 games is a recommendation we have at fantasyguru.com. If there's less than 5 games, we don't recommend you play the cash game scenario. We recommend you to GPP. If you want to play DFS, keep that in mind if one or more of those games gets knocked out tonight. Okay. Let's dive into it here and talk some baseball. Logan Webb, who I know there's been some consternation with and about and all that kind of stuff with his performance to date. We've talked about it, a couple of weeks ago. I think it was when we did the midseason breakdown of the starting pitcher position here on the show. And we said, look, Logan Webb is disappointed based upon my expectations. He's disappointed based upon my rankings. What are you going to do? You're going to continue to roll him out there every day, and he's going to be fine. And last night, he was more than fine. He was fantastic. And he has been uneven. And he is not going to match my personal expectations. Clear. but he takes the ball every 5 games. He throws 7 innings almost every time he's out there, 6 or 7 innings, like every time he takes the hill. He threw a complete game victory against the Athletics last night, 1-0 victory, under 2 hours. He pulled the Maddox. And, it wasn't just that he had the shutout. It was that he carved up the Athletics. And I saw someone say, well, the Athletics are terrible. Anyone paying attention, the Athletics' woe over the last 2 weeks is like 3rd in baseball. Butler, Rooker, Blade, Seth Brown, they're not a terrible team right now offensively. That was a dominant effort by Logan Webb last night. Very impressive. And I think it's just a reminder that, at the end of the day, Logan Webb, is he going to be the SP5 or whatever I had him at? No. Is he going to hurt you? No, he's not. He's going to be there. He's going to take the ball and he's going to be effective. And we saw that again last night. Oh, and by the way, I did not mention this. The rankings have been updated over at fantasyguru.com as they are the first of every month. So that was just done this morning. So those are available for everyone that subscribes. Get the rankings for the rest of the season, 600 plus players ranked for the rest of the season. We'll do that one more time on September 1st. Boy, is it getting messy. Really tough to get the rankings in a spot where you feel totally comfortable because of all the injuries. As I'm posting it, I'm trying to figure out what the hell do I do with Luis Rengifo and Mookie Betts. And so anyway, my best effort is available right now at fantasyguru.com. We'll do it one more time on September 1st. Tomorrow, the 2nd of August, we'll update the sold rankings. That's what we've been doing all season long, rankings and then the sold rankings separately. Going back to the Giants, Hayden Birdsong, who, has had some really strong efforts, including a double-digit strikeout game for the Giants, was demoted. But then it became the question of what are the Giants going to do with their rotation? Are they going to keep Hicks in the rotation? What's going to happen when Cobb comes back? Cobb's been traded to the Guardians, so he's no longer a threat to the rotation. Obviously, Hicks has been removed from the rotation, which was something that we kind of anticipated occurring this season because of the workload getting up to a point where it just hasn't been for Hicks previously. So Hayden Birdsong is being recalled from the minors, and it sounds like he's going to be in the rotation the rest of the way. I think that Birdsong is a strong streaming option. San Francisco is a good place to pitch. Birdsong has had some success at the big league level. The Giants do have, consistently have solid pitching. I don't think that he's a dominator, even though he had that one huge game. I think he's more of a streaming option in mixed leagues, though. If you're in a 15-teamer, 14-team or something like that, he's probably a weekly starter for you. But for those of you in 10 and 12-team leagues, he's probably more of a streaming option. He's going to join the rotation next week. Looks like he's going to face the Nationals. That's really good news. That's an effort you'd want to have him active. So if you want to be aggressive, proactive, and get Birdsong now, who's going back in the rotation, it looks like that next start will come against the Nationals. Clayton Kershaw. Clayton Kershaw. Let me see here. I've got a problem with my trying to do 6 things at once as I want to do here. And I do that every day for fantasyguru.com. I do seasonal baseball, DFS baseball, wagering baseball, seasonal football, DFS football, dynasty football, articles. I had 3 articles drop yesterday for auctions. For those of you that are interested in fantasy football auction, 3 articles, 6,000 words talking about how to do that. Best way to handle that. Clayton Kershaw last night lost his streak of 423 regular season games in a row as a starter with at least 1 strikeout. And you might say to yourself, 1 strikeout? All-time record in baseball history, Clayton Kershaw. 423 consecutive starts with at least 1 strikeout. Number 2 on that list is Tom Seaver at 311. Number 3 on that list is Nolan Ryan at 380. Tom Seaver was 411. Nolan Ryan is 382. That's all time, folks. It's just because, you leave with an injury, something happens, you get blown up in the first inning. Clayton Kershaw never, 423 outings in a row. He ended up giving up 7 runs, 6 hits. Only 3 of the runs were earned. Made it through 3 2/3 innings against the Padres. Padres got a lot of positivity going on right now, and the Dodgers don't. Their Dodgers are going in the different direction. His fastball was down a little bit yesterday, so he became somebody that was at the last minute like, where do I rank Clayton Kershaw? And again, you can go to fantasyguru.com to see. The effort yesterday was spotty. Now, spotty efforts happen. It wouldn't be a big deal at all if it was, start number 13, but it's right here at the start of his return to the big leagues. Something to keep a close eye on. It just wasn't there yesterday. We've seen the same thing happen with Garrett Cole. We've seen the same thing happen with Max Scherzer. And I anticipate Kershaw, provided he's healthy, and we did not hear after the game that he wasn't, provided that Kershaw is healthy, I expect him to get outs. To what level? We'll see. Yariel Rodriguez, somebody we talked about, somebody that we hit on. Yariel Rodriguez is going to actually return to face the Yankees on Sunday. He was demoted by the Blue Jays. They're bringing him back up. He's going to be reinserted into the rotation. Rodriguez has pitched very well this season, but as we've discussed previously and as I've written about over at FG, the situation with Rodriguez is such that there's a very high likelihood that A, he's moved to the bullpen, or B, he gets shut down at some point because they have to be looking toward the future with the Blue Jays. They know it's not happening this season, right? You look at it, they're in dead last in the AL East. Rodriguez didn't throw an official pitch last year. He's coming over. They want to bank on him in the future. They opened up a spot in essence with Kikuchi that they'll want Rodriguez to fill in 2025. Good news, he'll be back. You can use him for a streaming option. But against the Yankees, I don't think you want to use them there. So let's look at it to start after the outing this weekend against the Yankees. But be cautious because, as we've talked about all year, there are just some pitchers that are running up against workload situations, and Rodriguez has to be one of those guys. Yainer Diaz was really, really good last season as a rookie in his first full season. Hit 20 home runs. This year, he started out very slowly, and it looked like, he's just going to struggle to get to the levels of last year. And that was the case for almost 3 months. And the last month, he's gone bananas. The last 30 games, he's hitting 363. Ooh. His batting average is up to like 300. I think he's at 297 right now. It's like, where did that come from? Well, he hit 363 this month. Now, he only walked 2 times this month, I think. And that continues to be an issue, as we discuss all the time. When you have the approach that you expand the strike zone, you put balls in play, that's good in theory, but you can reach a limit where it's not good, especially when you're not a guy that can beat out ground balls, which Diaz doesn't, right? So that speaks to some of the streakiness, the lack of overt control of the strike zone, but he went 2 for 4 with a double last night. He's one of the hottest hitting players in baseball, certainly one of the hottest hitting catchers. And he's not on the waiver wire, so there's nothing to be gleaned from this discussion other than the fact that it's like, wow, this is really good stuff. Let's pull his player card up for a second, and let's look at some overall numbers with him, if I could learn how to type. I also have my keyboard on right now, which I have these bright lights on for the show. I've got my keyboard on with the backlit, which I don't think I really need, so I just turn that off. Overall, he's hitting 297 overall. He's hitting 297. You know how many? Let's take a guess. He's played 97 games. How many walks does he have? Well, he's got more walks than he had last year at 104. He had 11 last year. He's got 15. I mean, he got 26 walks his last 200 games played. I don't know this because I'm not looking at it, but Mike Trout's had months with 26 walks. Barry Bonds had months with 26 walks. This dude has over 200 games with 26 walks. So you get the point there. He has knocked down his strikeout rate from 20% to 15%. He's given up a lot in the OPS, almost 80 points in OPS. 90 points in isolated power. The launch angle's down a couple of degrees. The barrel rate's down 50%. Again, this is still really good stuff, but this was always likely to occur. One of the big things that stuck out in him that we talked about in the preseason was a 22% home run to fly ball ratio last year. This year, mark is 11.5%. So anyway, with Diaz, he should continue to be very effective. You can't expect this level of success moving forward, but he is extremely locked in. And he's had, unlike what he did last year when there were some split issues, not any lefty-righty splits. He's done very well against both sides, and he's in quite the groove right now for the Astros. Another catcher that's doing some things here of late is Joey Bart. Now, Joey Bart is I think he was the 3rd pick in the draft, I believe. It was 2nd or 3rd pick. He was supposed to be the Giants' next Buster Posey. That's in essence what he was drafted. And the scouting report on Joey Bart said, this guy's going to be a 25-30 home run guy. He's going to drive in 90 runs. He's like the perfect 5-hitter. It didn't happen. He never was able to close the holes up with the Giants. He went up, he went down, he went up, and he went down. All of a sudden, Patrick Bailey showed up. Patrick Bailey, better defensive player anyway. Offensive game is very good. Joey Bart's expendable. Joey Bart is now part of the Pirates. And, you look at his numbers right now, and there's a lot of Ryan Jeffers in this profile right now. And his overall numbers have risen to the point where his OPS is 825. His last 10 games played, he's hitting 333. His last 20 games hit 276. And he's 8 for his last 20 with a home run. He's in a really nice groove as well now. If you play the game of streaming catchers, which I know a lot of people do, Bart is absolutely in that conversation at the moment because he's playing all the time and his bat is working. There are still holes in his swing, and there's going to be that 3 for 19 week. Like, it's coming, right? That's just so realize if you pick up Bart, you can't expect him to be a 275 hitter. You can't expect this level of consistency from him, but this is really good news for his long-term prognosis. He's carving out a role where he's playing every day. Henry Davis hasn't got it done. Andy Rodriguez is not available. So Joey Bart right now, for a Pirates team that's got some good mojo, Joey Bart rolling right now. Seiya Suzuki went 2 for 5 last night, a couple of doubles and 3 RBIs. Nick Lodolo had a rough effort last night, one of his worst of the season. Suzuki is interesting because Suzuki, we've talked about him so much, and everyone has. There was the expectation when he came over here that, maybe he's a 25, 30 home run guy stealing 20 bases, but let's say he's a 28, 15 guy. Hasn't really been that guy. There's been some injuries. He's been in and out of the lineup. He's been solid. He's been very much like a Brian Reynolds. And there's nothing wrong with, that at the end of the day, we talk about it all the time. At the end of the day, if you're Brian Reynolds, you're a top 25 outfielder every year, right? So there's nothing wrong with that. It's not to the level of expectations with Seiya Suzuki, but he's played 84 games this year, and he's got 15 home runs and 10 steals. There's that 30-20 guy, basically, right? That's basically what we were hoping for with him. And, he last year was the best hitter in baseball in September. It's tough to draw these, he's a second half hitter. I'm not saying that, okay? Because I don't even know if that's a real thing. Studies are very inconclusive on that. And, what's the difference between July 20th and July 2nd? But he did finish with a huge kick last year. His last week has been dynamic. He's got a home run, 5 RBIs, 4 runs scored in 6 games, hitting 350 with an 1,100 OPS. So maybe. But the bottom line is he's got power, he's got speed. I think that the Brian Reynolds comp is very applicable with the bat. If he can steal 15-plus bases, that's something Reynolds doesn't do consistently. Suzuki can surpass Brian Reynolds if he can just stay healthy and on the field. Nice groove right now for him. Jake McCarthy went 3 for 4 with a triple, a run scored, and a steal last night. He's got his batting average against left-handed pitching up to like 388. So Jake McCarthy has been killing left-handed pitching. And overall, his batting average is up to almost 300. Now, we've talked a lot about him. He also, 2 years ago, was like a difference-making player in the second half of the season. But he stole 20-plus bases and hit like 300. He was terrific down the stretch. And the fact is that McCarthy's a little bit stretched offensively if he's playing every day. He's a good defensive player. He can absolutely steal a base, but his bat, That being said, he's hitting 294 on the season. He's got his OPS up to about 790, and he's got 15 steals. So we're talking about a guy who on a 500 at bat pace is hitting 290 with 30 steals. Pretty good. And he's been really good, really, really good of late. His last 8 games, he's hitting 400 with 1,000 OPS. And in fact, he's actually 12 for his last 22. He is blazing hot. They will obviously play him if he keeps hitting like this. And again, he's destroying left-handed pitching. He's fine against righties, but he's really a lefty killer at this point. So if you have the ability on your roster to use him when they face lefties, it's kind of like Jock Peterson against righties, right? These two guys, if you use them on your fantasy squad that way, you're going to get a guy hitting 300 with 25 home runs and stealing 15 bases. Like that's pretty good. Depends if you have the roster room for it and everything like that. McCarthy's bat can't stay this hot. It's tough to add a guy like McCarthy because you'll add him now because of what you're seeing, and then he'll hit 250 the next month. But he runs, he's playing, he's in a groove. Take it for what it's worth. If you're in a deeper league, rock and roll with him at the moment. Now, Jackson Chourio is somebody who's been written up in the cash game breakdown numerous times. I think did we have a bet on him the other day over at fantasyguru.com? Let me pull that up real quick. I think we did, right? Couldn't remember. What I normally do for those people that aren't involved with the betting side of things. Did we have it? No, I didn't actually put it up. He was in the cash game breakdown numerous times. For those people again, if you want to get signed up, support at fantasyguru.com for the wagering piece of things. I normally get 6 to 8 bets put together. And then I break it all down. And then I choose like the 2 or 3, maybe 4, depending, usually 2 or 3 that I feel the best about. And those are the ones we go with. So Chourio has been on the list many times in the last 2 weeks. He's not made the final cut, but he's been on the list many times the last couple of weeks. Bottom line is he went 2 or 5 with a run scored yesterday. They put him up at the leadoff spot. Now that Yelich is down, And, you look at him the last couple of weeks, the last 30 games he has played, he's hitting .330 with 5 home runs and 4 steals. That's some Mookie Betts level stuff. And it's fantastic to see Chourio. We've talked about this, I believe, here on the show. It's fantastic to see him do that because that means in season he's making the adjustments. And for a player with his relative lack of experience, for a player with his relative lack of age on a birth certificate, he's been fantastic this season. And his work of late is stupendous. And it's risen to the point where, again, he is now, and he's not on waiver wires, and I don't think you're making a trade for him or anything like that. But this is more for those people that took a chance at him or just, the PSA kind of thing. Really good stuff. I mean, this last 20 games, 13 runs scored, 10 RBIs. We'd take 80 RBIs and 90 runs when that's combined with 20 home runs and 20 steals, right? Like he's got his average up to 262. Really good work, and again, very impressed by him. And he's been locked in here and really in a great spot in the batting order now for the Brewers. Matt Olson also hit a couple of home runs yesterday. Now Matt Olson's been a mess. He's been a mess. Like there's not a single person in the world who I think. Well, let me say this differently. Not a single person in the world predicted this. I don't think many people, maybe there was a handful, there shouldn't have been. Maybe there was a handful that thought he was going to repeat last season. It was always likely that last year would go down as a career best season. I mean, he got 54 home runs with 139 RBIs. But he went 36-90 in 2019. He went 39-100 in 2021. He went 34-100 in 2022. Let's call him a 30-100 guy. Cool. All right. I'm fine with that. He's got 17 home runs and 50 RBIs. He could get to 30 home runs. It could happen if he gets a hot streak. I'm not saying but is he going to have 50 RBIs in 52 games? Like he's not getting to 100 RBIs. So this is going to go down as a bad season. And it's one thing to say, well, okay, his power numbers are down. The batting average, fine. He's at 226. Okay. So he's not even hitting 270, right? It's like, give us something. So it's been rough. And the fact is that the Braves have dealt with injuries. Obviously Acuna at the top, Michael Harris. They've lost guys all throughout the year at times, and their offense just hasn't been as good as last season. And part of that is obviously because of Olson. But when he hits those 2 home runs yesterday, you remember, okay, he's got 4 home runs the last 11 games, something like that. Okay, would I look at him and say that it's not possible he's a top 10 first baseman the rest of the way? No, I would absolutely say it's possible. Could he be top 5? He could. He could go on a huge power run. But even if he does that, obviously his production this season is simply nowhere near last year. It's nowhere near the expected levels. The strikeout rate is up about 5%. And the biggest concern that I have with that is, look, his walk rate the last 4 years is about 13%. This year it's 9%. That's a big difference. So he's just not taking the walk like he used to. And if we pull up his O swing, I'm going to bet without even looking at it, it's up again. It's up 3% from last year. So he's chasing a little bit more. He's swinging a little bit more, and he's not doing as much with it. So we'll hope that he can really lock in here in the last 2 months of the season. Again, he could be a difference maker the rest of the way, but it has been a rough go of it to date. All right, let's talk about some injury situations. Walker Buehler, last time back, he went to work on his mechanics. We talked about that here. Worked on his mechanics off-site, not with the Dodgers, but with that special group, right? Came back, gave up 4 runs, 8 hits over 4 innings. Ugh. So he's going to make another start at AAA El Paso tonight. We'll see if they like what they see tonight. It's possible his next turn on the hill is with the Dodgers in the starting rotation. Well, excuse me. He was impossible to rank. I just talked about the updated rankings at FG. Possible to rank. I don't know how many turns he's going to need in the minor leagues. I don't know if there's a certainty he sticks in the rotation. I don't know if they make him a long reliever. Tough. It's Walker Buehler. You want to believe. But with all the delays, let's call them delays and not setbacks, will be nice. All the delays with him since Tommy John surgery. We just haven't seen Walker Buehler for years now, and that's a concern. Tyler Mahle, the next guy up. Guess what? Tyler Mahle, who, we've talked about, we mentioned here, but not focused on. Looks like he's going to be back in the Rangers rotation next week. And wow, there it is, right? And, they've got the uncertainty with Max Scherzer. They got Cody Bradford back, but I think he's better servers in the bullpen, as we talked about when he got hurt. Jacob deGrom is coming back at some point. Now, the Rangers, are they going to make the playoffs? How hard are they going to push down the stretch? We don't know the answers to these questions. But Tyler Mahle, at one point in time, was a guy winning double-digit games with huge strikeout numbers. He's certainly capable of, throwing 5 or 6 innings each time out with 5 or 6 strikeouts. It's always tough to trust a guy. I'm not going to sit here and say that, if he's out there for, start one next week, let's go out and make a move. If he goes out and throws 5 shutout innings, everyone's going to want the guy. So, proactively, you can do it. I think that there have to be better options on the waiver wire. And in fact, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think I had Tyler. I think Tyler Mahle in my 150 pitchers were listed, starting pitchers. And I think Mahle was like 159. So I didn't even have him in. I barely had Walker Buehler. I didn't even have Mahle in the updated rankings the rest of the way. Because again, we just don't know what we're getting, but he's getting close. And there is a chance that he can certainly, at least in AL-only leagues, be somebody that people can get some value out of the rest of the way. Luis Rengifo, our guy, who has been terrific, who qualifies all over the field, who's hitting 300, who's stealing bases. His wrist bothered him again last night, and he was taken out of the game. We don't have confirmation of this. Again, it's 9:30 Pacific time here on Thursday morning. We don't have confirmation that he's going to the injured list, but it certainly seems likely that he's headed back to the injured list with that wrist issue. Ugh. We don't have the clarity with Mike Trout either. And, it's early for this. It's August 1st. But there are teams such as the Angels. What are they doing? They got nothing, right? How hard do you push guys that are beat up? For Rengifo missed a couple of weeks and came back from the wrist issue, and it's the same wrist issue. Do they shut him down for a month? Do they then say, well, it's September 1st, go rehab for a couple of weeks and we'll see how you feel. And if you don't feel great, we'll just shut you down. So tough. Someone asked me this morning, they were going to drop Rengifo. I think they were going to drop Rengifo. They asked me over in Discord. Can't drop Rengifo yet because we just don't know for sure. Hopefully we'll get some clarity. I mean, we still don't have the Mike Trout clarity. So I don't know, but maybe we'll get some clarity. We'll keep our fingers crossed because he is such a valuable player, Rengifo, because of that ability to play multiple positions. Thairo Estrada of the Giants, when Bob Melvin was asked, hey, how's his wrist doing? He basically said not close. And so I didn't do a lot of recon on this situation, I got to admit, but Estrada was run into on the base paths, I want to say 6 weeks ago, something like that. And he got hit at first base when he was covering the bag, or maybe it was, I want to say he was covering first base. Got hit, his wrist got bent, he was in pain, he was shaking his arm. I wonder if this is related to that. Again, I didn't do the recon on it. The bottom line is Estrada has been really bad based upon expectations. We haven't seen that type of performer, power speed guy that plays every day. He has not been in existence this season. Giants making all kinds of moves, Fitzgerald being the biggest one. They're okay without Estrada right now, and it does not sound like Estrada is going to be back at any point in the near future. Max Muncy, who's had Max Muncy's oblique issue is akin to Walker Buehler's return from Tommy John surgery. What is going on? Like, I have Max Muncy in one league, and it's just like he's got an oblique issue, and he hasn't played since May. So let's call it May 10th, June 10th, July 10th. We're getting into August 10th. It's going to be 3 months with an oblique issue. He's going to miss half the season with a muscle pull. Apparently, he had a chiropractic adjustment, and now he feels better. I've never been to a chiropractor. I'm not a big fan of having someone my back. I don't know. Other people swear by it. I've had a bunch of massagers, but never. Apparently, he feels better. So now he's going to start to go, and we'll see. And remember, Max Muncy, who's been a vacant source of anything this season, if he's back in a couple of weeks, that guy can be a significant fantasy performer the last 6 weeks of the season. Of course, we have to see if he can get back and how he looks and all that, but at least we're finally moving in the right direction. And finally, before we talk to Tyler Beaker, Mookie Betts, who's out with the hand issue, has been cleared to take batting practice. There's been some reports I've seen that say 2 weeks. Some say maybe next week. Some have suggested that, he might go on a minor league rehab assignment for a couple of days. Maybe they don't even do that. I don't know. It sounds like by, let's call it next weekend, I think there's a chance he's back. Now, again, these timelines are fluid and, but Mookie Betts is getting very close, and the Dodgers, with all those players on their big league rosters we talked about when the trade deadline occurred, going to start making some decisions on how these things go. Outman and Pages in particular, a little bit dicey whether they're going to remain with the team when Mookie Betts is ready to return. It's even unclear where Betts is going to play when he returns, because of all the moves that the Dodgers are made. Is it the infield or the outfield? We'll have to wait and see, but it sounds like that point in time is at least getting close with Mookie Betts. All right, it's a Thursday, and on Thursdays we visit with one of our football analysts. On Wednesdays we visit with Armando Marsal. On Fridays we visit with Russell Clay. These visits are about 12:30 Eastern time, 9:30 Pacific time, about halfway through the show. And it's a Thursday, so we're visiting with Tyler Beaker. And let's just bring him in right now. Tyler, you're too small. Let me make you bigger. There we go. The tech stuff, for those people that aren't watching, I popped Tyler up, and he was about 1 by 1 inch, and I'm here dominating my huge head. And I apologize, Tyler. It was not done on purpose. You are at least my equal, if not my superior, when it comes to this stuff. How you doing?
Doing great. All right. I popped in right when you were talking about the chiropractor comment, and somehow my YouTube algorithm has been all about chiropractic people getting adjustments, and I don't know why it's weirdly satisfying watching people get their backs cracked.
So they're just, hold on, that's have you ever been to a chiropractor? Like, to me, it just I've heard both sides, and I have some doctor friends, and my partner, she's a doctor, and it's like, I don't know if everyone thinks that's the best way to go.
That's fair. I did it in high school, like going through some growing pains and things. I was playing on our tennis team, and I just could not serve. My back, like that extension, just did not work. Okay. Think about like the movie Jumanji, where they're on like a rope ladder where it's going across the big cavern.
Right.
They basically had my body across a whole thing like that, and they would elevate the individual planes of the wooden panels to like create an S curve for like the spine.
Okay.
And just leave me in that position for 10 minutes.
Okay.
It did work in terms of like I got better. I'm not sure if that was due to the time of 2 to 3 months going, or the actual adjustments themselves. But I enjoyed it in terms of going in high school, but I don't have any real say in terms of the actual benefits.
Yeah, I think that's one thing too, from my limited exposure, because again, I've never done it, is that it's one of those things, like if you start doing it, they recommend you keep doing it. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Anywhere if you're a chiropractor, leave a comment in the chat room here.
Yes, please.
I don't know, but I hope maybe you should go just click on some, I don't know, Transformers or some porn or something on your YouTube and clear out your. It's weird how those algorithms work sometimes too. Like you click on one thing and all of a sudden, it's like, geez, like I just wanted to watch one little video on a Transformers. I don't need every sci-fi thing ever created here on my YouTube. By the way, youtube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork for this show. Let's talk some football. That's why you're here, Tyler. I'll move on. Thank you for humoring me with my chiropractor talk. I think we've talked about Deshaun Watson before, and this is, I guess, about Watson, but also about the Browns. We got a report out of the team that says, want to increase the tempo this year, and that makes a lot of sense. It sounds like Kevin Stefanski is going to continue to call plays. They're going to try to do more RPO. Okay. Do you see this report and change your opinion on anyone with the Browns? Because in theory, this sounds a little exciting, but what does it mean practically?
You're right. It does sound pretty exciting, especially the tempo comment, which I find interesting considering the Browns last year, they were number 3 in neutral script seconds per snap. That means in competitive games, basically plus or minus 7 points, they were playing fast. Finished the season number 1 in plays per game. So I'm not sure how much more meat on the bones there. What I think it really is going to do is alter their efficiency. Cleveland ranked 28th in success rate, 28th in EPA per play, and 9th in points per game last year. When Ken Dorsey, the new OC, was with Buffalo from weeks 1 through 10, the Bills were number 1 in play success rate, number 3 in EPA per play, and number 7 in points per game. As far as the passing concepts go and how Dorsey enters the situation, I think he should be considered a welcome addition. His numbers in Buffalo were definitely elevated with the play of Josh Allen. We got to mention that. But the core concepts, the called plays, I think that can improve under his tutelage here in Cleveland. We do have to keep in mind Stefanski is still going to call the plays, as you mentioned there. But last year's Browns, they used motion at the 9th lowest rate. They ranked 20th in EPA per play when utilizing it. The Browns were middle of the pack in motion, but they were number 2 in EPA per play when utilizing it. So they were getting their guys into more advantageous looks, behind only San Francisco in that statistic. Play action efficiency, I think that could also be a thing that we see a bit more with Josh Allen ranking as PFF's 3rd highest graded quarterback under play action. Deshaun Watson down in the 23rd in that category. No huddle rate, I think we could see that improve. 4% for the Browns, no huddle, 14% for the Dorsey-led Bills. And what I think about this team in terms of like, how does it translate to 2024? Can Deshaun Watson return to form? That's the big question that remains for Cleveland. Is his shoulder back to 100%? Can he live up to that massive contract where he climbs from a $19 million cap hit last year to a $64 million cap hit in 2024? It all falls on Watson. I'm expecting more 3 wide receiver sets. We saw them play the most 3 receiver sets ever under Stefanski last year. And the contract for Jerry Jeudy makes me think that they're only just going to continue to incrementally increase that rate in terms of a shift in philosophy. So I think there are some things that we can see in terms of Dorsey adding value to the Browns offense relative to the 2023 version, but it really hinges on the play of Watson and his health.
I saw you tweet this out. I don't know. Do you have any more information on Donta Foreman? I guess he was injured at practice today.
Yeah, he had a neck injury that was sustained at the very tail end of the practice. He was carted out, went to that local hospital. We're still waiting on more information about that, though.
Okay. Hopefully he's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Thumbs up on that one. Jameson Williams, what a road to get here, right? Hyped prospect, great performance in college, struggles in the pros, gambling this. There's a lot of hype with him. In the best ball format, he's the traditional take a shot kid, right? Because the big plays are going to come. What if we're in a redraft scenario? Who is Jameson Williams this year? Is he going to break out? If he breaks out, statistically, what does that even mean? Who is Jameson Williams in a redraft traditional setup?
Yeah, the helium for Jameson is definitely filling up in that terms of that balloon. It's expanding quite a bit. He's the type of player where you either get on the train early for what would be the 3rd season in a row, or you miss it entirely as he goes off and shows why he was a first-round pick in 2022. To date, he's shown that he cannot win a starting spot on the field playing as journeyman, and he's been relegated to a part-time role. I'll buy sporadically with him in best ball when I'm stacking Detroit, but for the redraft question, I think you need to pick your spots selectively, and it's really roster contingent, where ideally he's like your 5th or 6th receiver, a player that you just are kind of hoping turns into something, and maybe you trade him later down the line. The good news for JMO is 15 of the first 16 games this year will be played indoors for the Lions.
That's crazy.
That's great. Crazy. That's great because we like to see these types of burners on the fast track indoors, and that's where I think we could see him at his best if he actually does break out. And he'll be given every opportunity to do so. What's his name? Josh Reynolds vacates 474 vacated routes. That's a lot. He was their number 1 outside receiver in terms of the most routes run on that perimeter. There's a lot for Jameson to inherit. It's just really up to him. Does he take that step forward? I'm personally out. I'm not buying it. Fool me once. Okay, fool me twice. I'm not going for the 3rd time. That's how I'm taking my approach this year. But if you are like I am, a wide receiver heavy drafter, then perhaps a wide receiver 6 stance is fine if you can get him in round 9, where he's typically going round 8, round 9. I'm curious to see where his ADP ends up on Yahoo, ESPN, those types of sites though.
On Twitter X, you can follow Tyler Beaker at Tyler Beaker. That's TYLERBUECHER. By the way, how was your article received? I actually know how it was received. How was your article received that you dropped the other day? It seems like a lot of people are enjoying the work that you were talking about the last time you were visiting with us.
Yes, the wide receiver versus coverage scheme article ended up being a big hit. Seems like a lot of people are interested in utilizing it for this 2024 season, which was the whole intent, was to teach you guys a different way to look at it rather than wide receiver versus cornerback, looking at wide receiver versus scheme as the new way to look at things as we enter 2024. Fewer and fewer man coverage, less and less shadow coverage, so we don't get these one-on-one opportunities. It's more like 1 versus 4. How does that play out against the corners, the secondary? And there's some great information in that in terms of the wide receivers versus coverage schemes and the quarterbacks versus coverage schemes as well, because they're kind of directly related. So I'm really eager for the DFS season to start, because then we can actually capitalize on, okay, let me get all the Dolphins against this type of coverage shell where I think they can have a chance to put up 30 plus points. It's a great read though, and I highly recommend you checking it out.
By the way, I love the fact that everyone's got different computers and all that. And I have different versions of Word and everything like that. I copy and pasted the whole thing in. The charts transferred over the whole thing. I was like, yeah. So I got it in a Word doc. Yeah, it works great. So I would recommend doing that if you haven't done it yet. Let's go back to the wide receiver position, Tyler. DJ Chark, who at times, yeah, at times, no. He's with the Chargers now, and we're getting we're trying to figure out what's going to happen here. How many is it? 22 passes a week? Is it 27 passes a week? Is it 32 passes? What's this offense going to look like? Number one for the Chargers, and then secondarily, who's catching passes? You see, Quentin Johnston is someone who's all over social media, right? Here he's making a great catch. Here he's dropping a ball in his hands in the end zone. He still can't catch. That ball he dropped the other day in the end zone, I mean, it was he can't catch. Okay. Is DJ Chark the third receiver for this team? And if he is, what does that mean?
If you cannot routinely catch the ball, you're not long for this league. A lot of the plays that we saw Johnston making at TCU are some body catches with minimal separation. The Athletics' Daniel Popper did have some good quotes on Johnston regarding better route running and better at creating separation in year 2. But it doesn't matter if you can't finish the play. Like, there's a chance that he's just not on the field frequently, flat out, period, where I don't think it even matters Chark versus Johnston. I don't think either of those guys could be on the field if we see Greg Roman introducing the 2022 version of the Ravens, where they were heavy on 22 personnel, 12 personnel, 21 personnel, and those numbers indicate running back tight end, by the way. That's basically the set or formation that they're out in. So we're not going to see a lot of 3 wide receiver sets where all these guys are getting out on the field. It's going to be really tight end heavy, really running back heavy. We're going to see some fullbacks. We'll see some maybe a little bit more motion. But I think this is really just going to be an offense where we want to be selective with how much capital is invested here with the heavy hitters who are Palmer and McConkey. And in a start-sit format, I don't know how you could ever feel confident putting Chark or Johnston in the lineup. So to me, they're just players I'm not drafting. I think you can be selective. And to me, they're just not making the cut.
Hayden Hurst, you're going to catch 68 passes this year for the Chargers. I'm calling it now. Because I think, like you said, there'd be a lot of that 12 personnel. Let's go to the Colts. The Colts have Michael Pittman. Great. Is there anyone else there? I mean, the offense is changing. They're hoping to get, full slate of games out of Richardson. You got to throw the ball in this league. Is there somebody else besides Michael Pittman that's worth your time on draft day?
I think Josh Downs does check that box. He's one of my favorite best ball clicks right now once we get past round 10. And when we look at Downs' rookie season, he had a week 9 injury where the before and after splits of that are really night and day in terms of his performance dropping off. But prior to the injury, weeks 1 through 8, he was averaging 1.98 yards per out run, 0.23 targets per out run, wide receiver 36 in fantasy points per game. That's not bad to get a top 3 wideout in what was a Minshew / Richardson combo kind of mess. Like, he was a rookie playing with a backup quarterback for a good chunk of that on a run-first offense. To end as wide receiver 36, I think points that there's something there. And when we look at his season-long stats, among all 92 wideouts with 40-plus targets, he was top 15 in separation. He's going to have a slot-heavy role. Like, they added A.D. Mitchell to replace Alec Pierce on the outside. Those two are going to be the guys that flank the offense on the outside on the left and right. It'll be A.D. Mitchell probably more likely over Pierce, and then Pittman on the other side with Downs coming in as that slot-heavy role. He had an 82% slot rate last year. But he can get vertical. We saw that during his time at North Carolina. And he's a round 3 draft pick. Like, he's from the same group that drafted him. Like, it's not a new GM and group coming over to take over this offense. I think we'll see some sporadic spike weeks with Richardson back under center. And to me, he's that second receiving option that I think is worth a stash on benches in the event that Pittman gets an injury, or just the fact that he could be a flex play once we get into the bye weeks and maybe an injury hits your wide receiver core. He's a guy that I would like to draft, though, as a wide receiver 6 or so.
Tyler Beaker, Ray Flowers here on Fantasy Sports Daily. Again, remember, go to fantasyguru.com, click that subscribe tab in the top right corner, get signed up. You can also see it there on the screen to get all of Tyler's work, to get access to Tyler in Discord. He's in there every day answering questions as well. The Bears, just gave $700 trillion to DJ Moore, right? Okay, so he's locked in. They drafted Odunze, who everyone's really excited about in the dynasty format. They drafted Caleb Williams. Everyone's really excited about in the dynasty format. They've added in Keenan Allen. Some people love Cole Kmet. Talk us through this offense, because I get the sense that, there are some people that think that, Caleb Williams is going to throw for 4,300 yards and 28 touchdowns. And then there's other people, which I think are more reasonable, and say, look, 3,600 yards, 22 touchdowns. Talk us through the pass catches with the Bears, because there seems to be a lot of excitement. Is it warranted from a fantasy angle in 2024?
I do believe it is warranted. We've got a really, really talented quarterback who enters, I think, one of the best situations we've seen for a rookie quarterback to enter in quite some time with the offensive line. Last year's group was top 5 in both pass block win rate and run block win rate. It was just really masked by the fact that we saw Justin Fields take forever to throw the ball. He had the highest time to throw, took unnecessary sacks while he was waiting for those big plays. If we would move past that and enter the era with Caleb Williams, he's behind a quality offensive line. He has an immense array of wide receivers and tight ends and running backs to throw to. This is a great situation to enter, where I think he can put up a top 12 fantasy season, and it wouldn't surprise at all.
Okay.
I think it may be lost on some listeners that DJ Moore finished number 12 among all wideouts and receptions with 96, number 6 among all wideouts in receiving yards with 1,364. This dude's a stud. Like, him getting that contract on an offense that was 29th in pass rate last year. I mean, sheesh. Like, this guy, I'm very, very excited about him. He's a very easy round 3 click for me. Keenan Allen won't get that same 0.31 targets per out run in this offense. There's going to be more competition for targets and everything, but he'll still see the field frequently. Shane Waldron comes over from Seattle, a lot of 3 wide receiver sets. That means Allen gets a lot of reps there in the slot. I'm picturing Odunze to maintain that vertical role that he had with Washington, and with Waldron coming from Seattle, basically Odunze being the Metcalf over here, where he's just being used on vertical big splash plays, which leaves Kmet to me as the odd man out if we're looking for a guy that's probably not going to see as much volume. I don't think he even clears 75 targets with this group just because there's so many people.
Yeah.
And we could also see Gerald Everett, who comes from Seattle with Waldron to Chicago, as another guy that could rotate in and steal some targets as well. Kmet's never been an elite target earner. He's just really benefited from random 2-touchdown scoring games that have been great for DFS purposes. So they break a slate. But I just don't think he'll be a consistent fantasy option. And he's not really being drafted as that. He's like going outside the top 12. Generally, is like tight end 15, 16. And I think that's appropriate. I think like in a pinch, in a bye week, sure, he's a fine fill-in. But he's not somebody you're really excited to start week in and week out in a redraft setting.
Let's see here. According to Doug M, go Lions. JMO all the way. It gets even better from Doug M there, Tyler. Football plus JMO equals touchdown. So we're big fans there. And then Doug brings up a question here that you need to address. Are the Bears your hometown team?
No, the Bears are not my hometown team. I'm from the Philly area. Now live in DC. Okay. Covering the sport, you just kind of lose the sense of fandom. I just don't really have that anymore. I'll be honest with you guys. Like, I say I'm an Eagles fan and I've got a Cowboys thing hanging up right behind me, the other shoulder. I really just more am about opportunity, watching the special players make special plays, and just really enjoying what I do for a living. This is just a blessing. So no, I've kind of lost the fandom. I stick with that with more of other sports where I can just let loose and enjoy it and get caught up in the hysteria.
Jeff Manns and I were talking about this yesterday. Jeff Manns is the guy from Chicago. We were talking about this, and the fandom thing. I have the same response as you, Tyler. And this is like my 24th year full time doing this, so half my life almost. So I have that perspective, but I even think back to like when I was 10 years old. Like, I'm born and raised in the Bay Area my whole life. I've lived here my whole life, so I've always cheered for the Niners and the Giants and the Warriors and the Sharks. I never had the fandom that some people have. Like, some people out there, you say anything negative about anybody on their team and you're getting attacked. And it's just weird to me that you're a 30-year-old on social media and you're going to blast someone because they don't think Brandon Ayuk's a good play this year, right? It's like, it's just weird. Did you ever have that level of fandom? I never did. I always cheered for my team, but I never had the level of fandom that I was going to like attack people that didn't agree with me.
Well, fan is short for fanatic. So there's a little bit of hysteria tethered to that word. I don't think there's anything wrong with being passionate about your sports team. I think that's a great thing to have, that passion. I wish I had more of it in some aspects of my life, but when it comes to rooting for a team, I'm more a supporter rather than a defender. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to aggressively defend my team in the way you described there with an Ayuk being called out or something like that. Maybe that's just me. Maybe that's my personality.
This guy, Armando Marsal, says, we're doing a great segment right now. So thank you, Armando. I really appreciate you watching the show. Really, really, look, you can get a little bow from Tyler Beaker over there. Let's go to those Niners. And look, Brandon Ayuk, I guess there's still a possibility he gets traded. I think it's very small, very remote at this point in time. There is the question about how does this work? He wants a contract. He's not getting the contract. Is he going to pout? And, we've seen all these things happen at the wide receiver position. Then there's Deebo Samuel, who we all love, but Deebo Samuel does have a track record of getting hurt because he's constantly he plays football like a running back. He plays like he's Derrick Henry, right? He's knocking people over and everything like that. Ricky Pearsall, drafted earlier than a lot of people thought. Then, it was going to be Deebo traded. Then it was going to be Ayuk. What's going on? And how do you handle specifically Ayuk? Because, time's ticking here and nothing's really changed.
Yeah, he's dropped from a middle round 2 pick in best ball drafts to the 2-3 turn. I'm starting to see him go almost closer to that 30 overall spot. as people are just kind of a bit more hesitant and they want to see how it plays out. Everyone likes to play it cautious. I think that's not really the way to play these kinds of things where we want to be aggressive. To me, I think it's more of how do we handle the Ricky Pearsall situation? Because if you're drafting Ayuk, it doesn't really matter if you spend a round 3 draft pick on him. If he's sent to the Commanders or sent to the Steelers or literally any team, I think he's still going to return top 36 value in terms of an overall click where you're not worried about that. Yeah. But Pearsall stands the most to benefit in the event of an Ayuk trade. Round 1 draft pick, rumored all offseason to fill in that role once Ayuk vacates it. He's a pure flyer, but that's the type of risk and flyer that I like to take given the capital spent on him and the elite efficiency of the Shanahan offense. And Pearsall, he's no stranger to pre-snap motion during his time at Florida. Saw quite a lot of that. Should fit right in terms of the overall scheme and tempo and how they organize things. I'm really kind of excited for him as like a flyer and to see how this season plays out for him.
Final question for you. Let's assume we're in a PPR setup, Tyler. We're starting 3 wide receivers, which is basically the standard, but or the traditional, I shouldn't say standard. The traditional setup. PPR setup, 3 wide receivers. It's round 15, right? We're last guy on our bench before we start getting kickers and defenses. Ray McCloud. Ray, don't be ridiculous. Now, I know with the Falcons, it's Bijan Robinson, it's Kyle Pitts, it's Drake London, it's Kirk Cousins. We got a report saying that Raymond McCloud is in the lead for the slot role. This offense should be more wide open. We know that obviously Kirk Cousins can spread the ball around. Is Ray McCloud a dart throw final round pick, or did I just pick up a news story that you don't care about?
Great question. The Atlanta Falcons are moving from the Arthur Smith era with all the heavy personnel and packages to the Zach Robinson as the offensive coordinator era. Zach Robinson, 28 years old, coming from the Rams. So we're going to see a lot of Sean McVay influences here. Mm-hmm. And I recently just did a podcast with Jeff Manns as part of our Draft Guides podcast strategy sessions. We were doing a coaching segment. And Atlanta was one of the teams we were talking about there where I thought that there's a chance, given Kyle Pitts' history, that he ends up being the slot receiver and playing more there than the typical Y inline tight end. Mm-hmm. They added a guy, Charlie Warner from the 49ers, who was last year's number 3 highest graded run blocker. I think he's going to see a lot of snaps there as that inline guy and Pitts as the slot over a guy like Ray McCloud. The way this offense is going to be designed is we're going to see some clear out routes from guys like Darnell Mooney and Rondale Moore. Drake London operating more in the intermediate, but Pitts could be that guy that does a lot of clear outs in terms of benefiting from yards after the catch and the space that's generated behind a Mooney whenever he does that. So I think he's a guy that I think will probably be the slot wideout if I were to take a stance. Slot corners are too small to defend him. Linebackers are too slow to defend him. Mm-hmm. Safeties are just out of position. He's been top 10 in yards per out run when lined up exclusively in the slot every year since being drafted. So I think there's a chance that he's the guy that we want and not a guy like Ray McCloud, who maybe he's there now during camp, but I don't know if that means anything come September.
I mean, this is potentially, the average slot cornerback, I don't know, 5'10", right? 5'11". Pitts is 6'6". Like you're talking, and his arms are probably 6 inches longer too. Like that, thinking about this through, is then Pitts a target of yours? Just an offshoot here. Is Pitts a target of yours because his ADP is high, but it's not out of control because people are obviously disappointed in what they've seen today.
His best ball ADP right now is 60 overall, so he's going at that round 5-6 turn. Mm-hmm. Drake London, though, at that 1-2 turn, people are bullishly drafting him. I don't know why we're not bullishly doing the same for Kyle Pitts. I think we could look back on this year and think he should be where like Dalton Kincaid's going, and the two should be flip-flopped, personally. Okay. I'd rather have Pitts over Kincaid in a vacuum, and I think he should be closer to like the Mark Andrews range as like a top 50 selection than over in like the 60 range. So I'm very bullish on Pitts, yes.
Final question for you here. It comes from one of the followers here on the show, Tyler. And it's Jim C, who says he's in a startup 10-team Superflex Dynasty League. Pick 7. Thoughts on strategy for the first few rounds. First time with Dynasty. I think it's a great question. It's one that comes up a lot. Everyone seems to be trending toward getting involved with Dynasty Leagues, which is great. How do you answer this? Because what I tend to see is people in these Dynasty startup leagues go rookie. And it's like, well, let's, DJ Moore's fine to draft. Kyle Pitts is fine to draft. Like, we don't want to have our team be full of Aaron Rodgers, but there's a happy medium there. give Jim some advice here in his 10-team Superflex Dynasty setup.
One thing I would focus on would be the longevity at the wide receiver position. I think in a dynasty format, running backs have a short shelf life. Generally, we want to view these guys in like a 3-year window. Every 3 years, we want to reevaluate, essentially. Wideouts, we've got a much longer curve there and a much larger bucket in terms of what we can expect from productivity and just their general ability to stay healthy and their ability to not taper off in production. So wideouts would be something I would prioritize early in my drafts. That's something I typically do in startups. And with it being super flex, I think you can be a bit reactionary to when the quarterbacks go off the board. Not every super flex draft room is going to be the same. Sometimes we'll see quarterbacks go early and often. You could see 7 of the first 10 picks here be quarterbacks, or it could be 3. So I think you just need to react to your room appropriately. If I were you, I would try to get a middle round selection, like picks 4 through 8 or something like that, where you're not subjected to positional runs and you miss out on a bunch of quarterbacks if they were to all be scooped up. Armando and I, who comment right above, Armando and I just recorded a podcast on that, and we were discussing that exact scenario where if you draft from like the middle of your draft, you're not subjected to those types of scary runs where you could be without a quality quarterback and just be working from behind trying to play it through volume. That's generally my advice. I wouldn't be like targeting Christian McCaffrey, despite him being a stud. Like, he's just not a guy that I'm generally interested unless we get into like maybe the round 3 range where it's far from the 101 in redraft. There's a very, very stark difference there. I'd also check out the rankings that we have over on fantasyguru.com by our guy, Russell Clay, who does a great job creating multiple formats in terms of you guys being able to cross positionally value them with his Madden rating. I really think it's a creative way to do it.
And by the way, don't ever forget, touchdowns happen when you have JMO in the football. Remember that. Yes. Let's see if it happens. Let's hope it happens this year in 2024. Tyler, what you got coming down the pipe over at fantasyguru.com? I know you're always working on something big.
Tomorrow is our NFL betting guide we are launching, which has about 10 articles that we have introducing players from betting 101, what it is, what are spreads, what are totals, what's a prop, to some strategies behind selecting props, behind making these plays, what are teasers, what are futures. Like, there's a lot of stuff that we have coming out. Really, really excited for that. I believe they all start launching 12 p.m. Eastern tomorrow on Friday. So take a look, be on the lookout for that. Should be quite a few articles. So excited for that to launch.
And by the way, Jim C says he's already printed out the dynasty rankings. So look at that.
Nice.
Jim's ahead of it. And he said thank you too, by the way. So we're here for you, Jim, to help you on the show. Obviously, you can hit any of us up in the Discord over at the site. Go to the Dynasty Room. We'll help you out there too. Yeah, that guide is great for the wagering. That's not the wagering package. The wagering package is separate. But this is an intro to the whole thing. If you want to get involved this year, if you want to, you're not sure how to do it. I mean, Tyler is in charge of putting this all together, and I'm interested to read it all because I haven't seen anything other than, the surface, let's get it going kind of thing. So I'll be reading it all myself as well. So, thanks for putting that together, Tyler. Thanks for joining us here on Thursdays and every Thursday. And hope you have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you in a week.
All right. Thanks for having me. Take care, Ray.
You got it. Tyler Beaker of fantasyguru.com. And remember, you can follow him on Twitter X at Tyler Beaker, which is TYLER BUECHER. Thanks, Tyler. All right, a couple comments here before we shut this thing down. Let's go back to the beginning here. Jim C. Oh, Jim, earlier on. Ray, we appreciate you. Thank you, Jim. I appreciate you too. Said, Raymundo, you're the man. Jim, so much love today. I love that. You and Doug both coming through today. Jason L. been crushing it as always, Ray. Appreciate everything you do. Appreciate you too. Jason, thanks for saying that. For those people that missed it, I started out kind of hot today. I appreciate the well wishes here. It's a grind, and it's one of those things that I would just encourage everyone to remember. Saying please or thanks means a lot. It really does, because in our position, Tyler, myself, we're going to be wrong sometimes. The advice we give is not always going to be right, and try to keep that in mind. And I had a guy on Twitter X yesterday just bark out, "I need a guy." It's like, I didn't answer his question. It's like, can you say please or thank you, or at least say it nicely? That's all you got to do. Be civil, right? Let's keep the civil discourse going here on the show and at fantasyguru.com. So Doug and Jim and Angelo and or even Armando. All you guys, thanks for the nice comments in the chat room today. Really appreciate that. We'll be back again tomorrow here. Fantasy Sports Daily is Monday through Friday at 12 o'clock Eastern Time, 9 a.m. Pacific Time. You can watch us live on Facebook at facebook.com/fantasyguru HQ. You can watch us live on YouTube at youtube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork. Both of those spots allow you to leave those comments or ask questions. So hit this up live there. You can also watch us on Twitter X at Fantasy Guru site, and then catch the show on demand in any of those spots that we just mentioned, as well as going to fantasyguru.com, clicking the Elite Plus tab at the top, or typing Fantasy Sports Daily into your local podcast network. I got an article to write right now for the cash game breakdown. Again, we'll have to watch the weather to see how that plays out. The rankings have been updated. The full 600 plus players for fantasy baseball have been updated for August, so check that out. The Souls rankings will be available tomorrow over at fantasyguru.com. And if you missed it yesterday, my 3 articles on auction drafting in fantasy football dropped at fantasyguru.com as well. I want to thank Tyler Beaker for joining us today. Russell Clay joins tomorrow to keep the football talk going here on Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by fantasyguru.com. Have a good one, folks.